Hey, have you ever wondered why that first car mod feels so good that you immediately start planning the next one and the one after that, and before you know it, you're $3,000 deep into a project that was supposed to cost 500 bucks? If you've ever felt that rush of installing new rims or hearing your exhaust note change for the first time, then smash that like button right now, because what I'm about to tell you might just explain why your bank account keeps getting lighter while your car gets heavier with mods. And hit subscribe because we're diving deep into the psychology and history that makes car upgrades more addictive than your morning coffee. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you can't stop and why the automotive industry has known about this for decades. Hey, this is Mark and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. So let's get real for a second. You're sitting in your garage, or maybe you're scrolling through Instagram at 2 in the morning and you see this beautiful set of wheels on someone's build, and suddenly your stock rims look absolutely pathetic, right? That feeling you're experiencing isn't just admiration, it's your brain literally releasing dopamine, the same chemical that makes people addicted to gambling, shopping, and yes, even their smartphones. But here's where it gets interesting and kind of scary if you think about it. Back in the 1950s, when American car culture was exploding, General Motors had this brilliant and slightly manipulative strategy called planned obsolescence. They'd release new models every year with fresh styling, not because the old ones were broken, but because they understood something fundamental about human psychology that we're still falling for today. They knew that once you taste that new car feeling, that pride of ownership, that social status boost, you'd chase it again and again. Now, fast forward to today, and the modification industry has taken this concept and put it on steroids. Think about it. When was the last time you finished one upgrade and felt completely satisfied? Never, right? Because the moment you install those new coilovers, you start thinking about that front lip or those wider fenders, or maybe a whole new wheel setup to match the lowered stance. It's an endless cycle, and your brain is basically playing tricks on you. But wait, before you think I'm just here to lecture you about spending money, let me tell you something even more fascinating. Scientists have actually studied this phenomenon, and what they found is that the anticipation of getting an upgrade releases more dopamine than actually having it installed. Read that again. The planning, the research, the YouTube videos you watch at midnight comparing different brands. That entire process is flooding your brain with feel-good chemicals. It's the same reason why people enjoy planning vacations almost more than taking them. Dr. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroendocrinologist at Stanford, discovered that dopamine isn't about pleasure itself, it's about the pursuit of pleasure, the anticipation, the hunt. So every time you're browsing forums or watching build videos or adding items to your cart, you're basically giving yourself little hits of happiness. And here's the kicker. The automotive aftermarket industry is worth over $42 billion in the United States alone, and they figured this out too. They're not just selling you parts, they're selling you that dopamine hit, that dream of what your car could become. But let me take you back even further in history, because this addiction to upgrading isn't new, it's just evolved. In the 1960s and 70s, the muscle car era wasn't just about horsepower, it was about the culture of one-upsmanship. You'd bolt on a new carburetor, your buddy would get headers, then you'd need a new cam, then he'd get slicks, and this arms race of modifications created an entire subculture. The difference between then and now? Back then, you actually had to know a guy who knew a guy who could get you parts. Today, you've got 1,000 companies competing for your attention with targeted ads that literally follow you around the internet after you search for best cold air intake just one time. Have you noticed that? It's almost creepy how they know exactly what you want before you've even decided to buy it. Now, here's where the fear part comes in, and I'm not trying to scare you, but you need to hear this. The average American car enthusiast spends between $5,000 to $15,000 on modifications over the life of their vehicle ownership, and studies show that most of these mods barely increase the resale value of the car. Sometimes they actually decrease it. Think about that for a second. You're spending real money that could go toward retirement, investments, or even a down payment on a property, chasing a feeling that lasts maybe a few weeks before you're already planning the next upgrade. But wait, don't click away thinking I'm about to tell you to stop modifying your car completely, because that's not the point, and honestly, that would make me a massive hypocrite. The point is understanding why you're doing it and making conscious decisions instead of just reacting to every dopamine trigger the industry throws at you. Let me share something that changed my perspective entirely, and this might blow your mind. In the 1980s, Japanese car manufacturers, particularly Toyota and Honda, revolutionized the tuning scene with vehicles that were specifically designed to be modified. The Honda Civic, the Toyota Supra, the Nissan Skyline. These weren't just transportation, they were platforms, and the companies knew it. They understood that creating a car with massive aftermarket potential would build brand loyalty that lasted generations. Kids who modified Civics in the 90s are now adults with disposable income buying new Type Rs and passing that passion down to their children. That's not just smart marketing, that's generational financial programming, and it's absolutely genius when you think about it. But here's the part that should make you pause and really think, because we're getting to the core of why this feels so addictive. When you modify your car, you're not just changing metal and rubber and plastic, you're literally crafting your identity. Psychologists call this extended self-concept, where your possessions become extensions of who you are. That's why someone criticizing your wheels feels personal, or why you spend hours detailing your car even though it's just going to get dirty again. Your car becomes a physical representation of your taste, your status, your values, and every upgrade is like leveling up your character in a video game. The problem is, unlike a game, this one costs real money and there's no final level, no credits rolling, no you win screen. So where does it end? Here's the uncomfortable truth that most car channels won't tell you because they're sponsored by the very companies benefiting from this cycle. It doesn't end unless you consciously decide to step off the hamster wheel. And I'm not saying you should stop completely, I'm saying you need a strategy. Think about this logically for a second. What if instead of reactive upgrading, where you see something cool and immediately want it, you practiced intentional upgrading? What if you set actual goals, created a budget, and prioritized modifications that either increase your genuine enjoyment of the vehicle or serve a functional purpose? Crazy concept, right? But here's why most people don't do this, and this is backed by behavioral economics research from people like Dan Ariely, who studies irrational behavior. We're incredibly bad at delayed gratification, and we're even worse at accurately predicting how happy something will make us in the future. That's called effective forecasting, and humans are notoriously terrible at it. You think those new seats will change your entire driving experience, and maybe they will for the first week, but then hedonic adaptation kicks in. That's the psychological phenomenon where you return to your baseline level of happiness regardless of positive changes in your life. It's why lottery winners aren't happier a year after winning, and it's why your dream car upgrade won't satisfy you as long as you think it will. But here's something you can do right now, and I challenge you to actually try this because it works. Before you buy your next modification, write down exactly how you think it'll make you feel and for how long. Be specific. Then, 3 months after you install it, read what you wrote and honestly assess if your prediction was accurate. Most people find that they overestimated the happiness boost by about 60 to 70%, and that's a real statistic from consumer psychology research. Now, are you starting to see why the title of this video mentioned financial dopamine? Because that's exactly what this is. You're essentially using your money to buy temporary neurochemical reactions, and the automotive aftermarket industry has built a sophisticated system to keep you coming back for more. Let's talk numbers for a second, because this is where it gets really interesting from a financial perspective. If you take that average $7,000 that enthusiasts spend on mods and instead invested it in a basic index fund with historical returns of about 7% annually, in 20 years, that's over $27,000. In 30 years, over $53,000. That's a down payment on a house. That's a year of retirement. That's your kid's college fund. But here's the thing, and this is where I'm going to probably make some people mad. I'm not saying you should stop modifying your car. What I am saying is that you should do it with full awareness of the trade-off you're making. Every dollar you spend modifying your car is a dollar that's not working for your future self. Is that weekend thrill worth it? Maybe it is, and that's totally fine, but make that decision consciously, not because an Instagram ad triggered your dopamine system at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Now let me tell you about something fascinating from automotive history that perfectly illustrates this whole concept. In the early 2000s, the Fast and Furious franchise exploded, and suddenly everyone wanted neon lights, body kits, and massive spoilers. The aftermarket industry saw sales increase by over 300% in certain categories. But here's what's interesting. Within 5 years, most of those trends were considered tacky and outdated. People who spent thousands on those mods saw their cars lose significant value. The lesson? Trends in modifications are just as fickle as fashion trends, but the money you spend is permanent. So what's the solution? How do you enjoy the hobby without going broke? Here's my 3-part framework. And yes, I'm giving you actual actionable advice because I'm not just here to point out problems. First, the 50-50 rule. For every dollar you spend on modifications, put a dollar in savings or investments. This forces you to be more selective about upgrades and builds a financial cushion at the same time. Second, the 6-month test. Before buying any modification over $500, wait 6 months. If you still want it after half a year, buy it. You'll be shocked how many things you thought you needed suddenly don't seem important anymore. Third, the function first principle. Prioritize modifications that improve safety, reliability, or genuine performance that you'll actually use. That means brakes before body kits, tires before tint, maintenance before mods. Simple, right? But how many people actually do this? Almost none, because it requires fighting against your brain's natural wiring. But here's the exciting part and why you should stick around until the end. Because there's actually a way to hack this system and use it to your advantage. Remember how I said anticipation releases more dopamine than achievement? You can use that. Instead of buying everything at once, space out your purchases and really savor the research and planning phase. Make it last. Build a detailed spreadsheet, watch every review video, join forums, and ask questions. You'll get more happiness out of a 3-month research and planning phase than you will from the actual 5-minute installation, and it's basically free. Pretty wild when you think about it. You can literally game your own neurology to get more satisfaction while spending less money. The automotive industry doesn't want you to know this, but now you do. So what are you going to do with this information? Are you going to keep mindlessly chasing the next mod? Or are you going to take control of your upgrades and your finances? The choice is yours, but at least now you're making an informed decision. You understand the psychology, you know the history, you've seen the numbers. And look, I get it. Cars are passion, they're art, they're self-expression, and there's real value in that. I'm not here to take away your joy. I'm here to make sure that joy doesn't come at the cost of your financial future. Because here's the final truth that nobody talks about. The best car mod you can make isn't something you bolt on. It's the financial security that lets you enjoy your hobby without stress, without debt, without regret. That's the real upgrade, and it's the one modification that actually increases in value over time. So here's my challenge to you. Take the principles from this video, apply them to your next potential purchase, and see what happens. I bet you'll find that you enjoy the hobby just as much, maybe even more, because you're doing it consciously and strategically instead of compulsively. And if this video made you think differently about your mod list, hit that like button, subscribe for more content that actually makes you think instead of just showing you shiny parts, and drop a comment telling me what your next planned upgrade is and whether you're going to apply the 6-month test to it. Let's build a community of enthusiasts who are smart with their builds and their money. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to have a cool car, it's to have a cool car and a healthy bank account. And now you know exactly why that's harder than it should be and what you can do about it.